Hello, thanks for joining us on the news. I'm Ruth Aguele. My sign language interpreter is Bamidele John. Begin with the headlines. Ahead of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, President Tinubu hopes for more rewarding partnership. Federal government approves establishment of youth house to address needs of Nigerian youth. An African Union to commence action plan for safe and orderly regular migration. President Bola Tinubu has expressed hope that this edition of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation will address the great areas yet to make the relations more rewarding for both parties. The Nigerian leader and chairman ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government expressed the belief during his meeting with the President of China, Li Qiang, ahead of his first participation in Beijing. State House correspondent Musbahu Danwahab reports.
The Nigeria-China partnership is getting more bases to become comprehensively strategic in nature. Just a day after meeting with President Xi Jinping, President Bola Tinubu is yet again with the Premier of China, the holder of the highest administrative position in the government and head of the State Council. Here, President Tinubu assumes his toga as ECOWAS chairman and equally speaking in the interest of the continent. He appreciates that the spirit of the FOCAC is based on mutual respect and partnership that will promote development, happiness, peace and stability of the African people.
We are in this journey together. We believe that we can share a very common denominator, which is investment and development, to ensure China and African relationship is encouraged.
President Tinubu also expressed satisfaction that the strategic partnership being promoted is accepted to both sides and hopes that this forum will yield more benefits for Africa.
Africa is a huge opportunity for economic development. As a great people are willing to partner for progress and development. What is lacking will be the focus of the FOCAC and the areas that we can collaborate to make the relationship mutually beneficial to all of us.
Chinese Premier Li Qiang was more specific on Nigeria-China relations as he said China stands ready to strengthen the alignment of development strategies with the largest African nation. Under the framework of high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, he emphasized that China would deepen cooperation with Nigeria in areas of infrastructure construction, finance, agriculture and fisheries, and expand cooperation in marine economy, clean energy, and digital economy. Li Qiang expressed China's willingness to import more quality products from Nigeria, increase bilateral people-to-people and cultural exchanges and cooperation, enhance coordination in multilateral fields, safeguard the common interest of the developing countries, and uphold international fairness and justice. From Beijing, Musbah and Wahab, NTA News.
Well, as formidable members of the global South, Africa and China hailed the rise of the global region in Beijing at the ongoing China-Africa Summit. Africa trades with the world's second largest economy, China. It's estimated at a tune of over $167.8 billion. Kulo Mohammed will tell us more.
China, The world's second-largest economy is Africa's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade hitting $167.8 billion in the first half of 2024. Chinese president and wife met African leaders at the Great Hall of the People. China says it will continue to actively enhance cooperation with Africa in the face of the counter-current of Cold War mentality. The representative Chinese government on African affairs said there should be no return to the old era of colonial exploitation and Cold War confrontation.
Many African economies are in a desperate situation, and the international financial system as it exists today is unfair, outdated. It was prepared after the Second World War. It represented a world that no longer exists.
Chinese president called on Africa to see China as a harmless partner, one with clean intent, such that will not conspire against any African nation on the continent of Africa. Kolo Muhammad, NTA.
The relationship between China and Ghana has a considerably influence on trade between both countries, providing mutual economic benefits, with China currently ranked as Ghana's biggest trading partner. Well, at the 64th anniversary celebrations of the Ghana-China Friendly Treaty, Beijing and Accra reaffirmed their commitment towards spurring growth in both economies by improving trade volumes between them.
In 2012, Ghana's exports to China was $1.38 billion, while China's imports to Ghana amounted to $9.23 billion. The positive trade relationship between the two nations dates back to the early 1960s, when Ghana, under the leadership of its first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, sought to establish strong diplomatic ties with China. The two nations found common ground in their shared aspirations for independence, economic development, and mutual respect on the global stage. The signing of the Friendship Treaty in 1966 laid the foundation for a relationship that has grown stronger with each passing year.
The people-to-people exchanges continues to prosper. Around 40,000 Chinese are living and working in Ghana, while more and more Ghanaians are doing business in China. 3 Confucius Institutes has been established in Ghana, with more than 10,000 Ghanaian students studying Chinese.
Decades on, the relationship between Ghana and China developed into a resourceful partnership in areas such as trade and investment. Chinese companies in Ghana have been instrumental in the development of critical infrastructure projects across Ghana, including roads, bridges, and energy facilities.
Economic growth, where we come to project from the direct foreign investment. Speaking of the number and the value, Chinese companies were leading all the way in 2023, and indeed China has become the #1 trading partner of Ghana since the year 2014.
Education and cultural exchanges have also been central to the Ghana-China relationship.
The latest sea tragedy has occurred off the Libyan coast as a boat carrying migrants capsized on its way to Europe. A boat ripped apart in the English Channel off France, killing 12 migrants. Kolo Mohammed will give us the details now.
The Coast Guard in the Libyan town of Tobruk said the boat was carrying 32 migrants and that 9 had been rescued. The boat sailed from Bab el Zaytoun and capsized after its engine suffered a mechanical failure. The victims are said to be from Egypt and Syria. In recent times, North Africa has emerged as a dominant transit point for migrants fleeing war and poverty.
Many of them leaving under dire conditions which fall short of persecution. Many of them having skills that we need on this continent, which is a dying continent. Germany has the lowest birth rate in the world. Italy, Spain, all over Europe, there's actually a huge demand for, and will be, in time to come.
Similarly, A boat carrying migrants ripped apart in the English Channel as they attempted to reach Britain from northern France, plunging dozens into the treacherous waterway and leaving 12 dead. Most of the victims are women, some under 18, and many of them did not have life jackets on. An official term dates the deadliest migrant accident in the Channel this year. French Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin said the boat was frail and small, less than 7 meters long, and that smugglers are packing more and more people aboard such vessels with victims, mostly Eritreans. Kolom Muhammad, NTA News.
An unfortunate scene there. In other news, the African Union is set to commence its plan of action for implementing the Global Compact for safe, orderly and regular migration, being the first international policy framework that provides a clear migratory governance. The Global Compact, when adopted, will become the toolkit for member states of the United Nations International Organization for Migration. Well, at its latest validation meeting of the draft implementation policy in Accra, Ghana, the African Union urged experts to fashion out the document in a manner that addresses Africa's migration challenges.
Each year, tens of thousands of migrants from Africa undertake highly risky and irregular migration journeys in search of greener pastures. The International Organization for Migration reports that in 2022 alone, nearly 2,800 deaths and disappearances were recorded in relation to such perilous journeys within West Africa and the central Mediterranean zones. To tackle this irregular migration trend across the continent, the African Union is seeking to leverage the United Nations Global Compact for safe, orderly and regular migration, with the action plan being evaluated in Accra, Ghana.
This validation meeting of experts is a golden opportunity before us to fine-tune the draft plan of action to enable it to reflect to our collective aspirations. In all this, we are guided by the Pan-African ideology that this process is an AU member state-driven process for African migrants by Africans. We are also guided by the understanding that migration is key to social and economic development.
As consultations proceed on the way forward for tackling Africa's migration challenges, the International Organization for Migration is urging its African member states to equally learn best practices from other countries to tackle the crisis.
As we proceed with the validation, I urge us to keep in mind the importance of whole government and society approach. The lessons learned and good practices that could be replicated elsewhere, including beyond our continent. I look forward to the discussions and assure you of the steadfast support of IOM and the United Nations Network on Migration in our collective efforts to implement a global compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration.
The plan for action for implementing the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration is scheduled for adoption by organs of the African Union later this year.
Nigeria has been elected as one of the 4 vice presidents of the African Union of Broadcasting in a keenly contested election held this Wednesday at the ongoing General Assembly of the Union in Gabon. Nigeria was a member of the Executive Council that was dissolved at the end of its 2-year tenure on Tuesday. The 4 days AUB General Assembly featured 6 panel discussions around the theme, the future of African media, facing the challenges of new technologies and climate change. Nigeria's contributions to the growth and development of the broadcast industry in Africa, especially in the establishment and sharing of contents on the AUB cloud platform by the NTA, was acknowledged and appreciated by member countries. Director General of the NTA, Salihu Abdulhamid Dambas, who is to represent Nigeria as the Vice President of the AUB, is expected to bring his wealth of experience to further develop the broadcast industry in Africa. The Chairman Nigerian Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri Erewa, has urged for unity amongst Africans, urging Nigerians in the diaspora with dual citizenship to keep in touch with home and always be proud of their Nigerian citizenship. Dabiri Arewa stated this when she received Miss Universe Nigeria Chidinma Adesina at NIDCAM's office in Lagos. The NIDCAM boss stated that Chidinma's resilience, given the circumstances surrounding her emergence as Miss Universe Nigeria, is admirable and represents the creative energies of Nigerians all over the world.
Finally, we'll work with you, your next steps and whatever it is you decide to do, and see how we can support your family, yourself, as you start this new life.
So it has been an amazing experience. I haven't really been out to experience more, and I'm really proud to say that I'm going to stay here and explore. So yes, after everything else, Nigeria is home now.
Miss Universe Nigeria, who was accompanied by Guy Murray Bruce, organizers of the Miss Universe Nigeria beauty pageant, noted that she is to represent Nigeria at the Miss World 2024 in Mexico later in the year. Miss Chidinma had been forced to withdraw from the beauty pageant in South Africa due to her dual nationality, though being born there 23 years ago. Let's take a break. We're back shortly. Stay tuned.
The federal government of Nigeria wants vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Did you know that President Bola Tinubu has approved the suspension of import duties and tariffs on rice, maize and other essential food items? The President has also approved the suspension of import duties on pharmaceutical raw materials and equipment. This will help bring down the prices of food and drugs across the country. All hands are on deck to ensure that things get better for all Nigerians. This is the renewed hope.
Welcome back. Concerned by the plight of retirees accessing their entitlements, House of Representatives Committee on Pension is engaging pension administrators and all the critical stakeholders to find a workable solution to the issue. National Assembly correspondent Isa Mohammed has details for us.
Appearing before the committee are pension fund administrators and other relevant stakeholders with a bid to understand their role, trust and funding of the scheme for a better life of retirees.
There's supposed to be increment in pension payment to pensioners. What have you done to keep behind this policy? Or have you started implementing it? Or what are your plans towards implementing it? Since our inception, we have paid about 286,000 retirees benefits along the entire spectrum of benefit payout.
It is the accrued right that is the problem. Because if you don't pay the accrued right, it makes it near impossible for you to be able to pay the person his lump sum benefit and for him also to choose the methodology that he wants to adopt.
Chairman of the committee, Hussaini Muhammad Jallo, assured Nigerians that the National Assembly will reshape the scheme to restore the confidence of retirees in the pension policy.
By the time this committee finishes its work and submits a report, I have no doubt in my mind the pension industry in Nigeria will be better, will be more better than we met it before. And that will lead us into the amendment of the Pension Reform Act 2014. That has been in place, 2014, that has been in place for over 10 years. This committee has already started the process of amendment of the Act. And this engagement we are doing with the PFS and PFs will give us an in-depth knowledge about the operations of the PFS and PFCs that will guide us into the amendment of the 2014 Act.
The public hearing continues with other stakeholders. From the National Assembly, Issa Muhammad, NTA News.
Still on legislative affairs, member representing Akwanga, Wamba, Nasarawa, Egon Federal Constituency at the House of Representatives, Jeremiah Umaru, says the National Assembly is pushing for more budgetary allocation to address decades-long infrastructural decay in public schools. The lawmaker said this in Akwanga when he interacted with students from 35 schools across the Northern Senatorial District of Nasarawa State. Aliyu Tijani reports.
There is a growing preference for private schools over public schools in Nigeria due to what many attribute to poor infrastructure and decline in quality of teaching in public schools. The narrative which member representing Akwanga, Wamba Nasra Egon Federal Constituency at the National Assembly, Jeremiah Umaru, is pushing for a paradigm shift to return public schools to those glorious days they were a referral citadel of learning. The lawmaker, at an interactive session with students as part of his constituency engagements, emphasized the need for government at all levels to allocate more funds to the education sector in line with UNESCO recommendation.
Is to build the confidence level of our younger ones. The whole idea is to wake them up in the academic portion. The whole idea is to expose these young ones to what is happening in the world. I want to start building this unity in the younger ones.
During the engagement between the lawmaker and students across Nasarawa North, a school debate was held to enhance public speaking skills among students. Aliyu Tijani, NTA News.
The federal government has approved the establishment of a youth house in Abuja, an innovative place to address the needs of young individuals from diverse cultural and social backgrounds. Minister of State for Youth Development, Ayodele Olawande, stated this at a media conference in Abuja. Olainka reports that the event was also an opportunity to reel out other youth programs.
Since available white-collar jobs cannot cater for the teeming youth population globally, with Nigeria inclusive, finding a working and monitoring solution is of essence. Hence, the plan to establish a youth house. The youth house, when established, will serve as a point of convergence for youths of diverse backgrounds and is expected to meet the consistent yearnings and aspirations of youths such as unemployment, jobs, and wealth creation.
Goals of the youth house would be to help the youth develop important life skills such as leadership, teamwork, cooperation, and communication.
The initiative is a strategy of decentralizing access to government's programs will not be limited to FCT alone. Youths will be exposed to skills that can be exported in the near future.
The youth greenhouse in all the local governments would be coordinated in partnership with all youth-related government agency and private sector.
In keeping to the pro-youth agenda of his government, President Bola Tinubu on August 27, 2024, gave approval for the establishment of a youth house in Abuja, an action that reaffirms his commitment to the welfare of Nigerian youths. Olainka Ojo, NTA News.
The Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, is facilitating the development of a comprehensive training and certification program to address specific needs of engineering artisans in relevant sectors of the economy. Well, the regulatory body inaugurated the Sector Skills Council for Engineering in Nigeria. Let's hear from Tokbe Alabi.
The Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, had in 2021 said 80% of artisans found on construction sites across the country are foreigners, with Nigeria losing $4.5 billion annually to foreign artisans.
To tackle critical issues in the skills development
sector. And at this 32nd Engineering Assembly in Abuja, inaugurating a 10-man sector skills council for engineering in Nigeria, Koren believes will address the 10 million artisans deficit in the market to a population of over 200 million and a housing deficit of 20 million.
These ambitious goals aligns with the renewed hope agenda of the present administration, as well as the objective of the National Skill Council's framework.
These licensed artisans can be deployed into national infrastructural projects instead of importing labor from ECOWAS and from Asia.
We assure you that we work diligently to make that happen. I believe at the next Current Assembly, we will give a report.
With the theme regulating engineering profession for shared prosperity in Nigeria, stakeholders believe the time is now for the council to synergize with other relevant bodies to curb quackery and reduce the country's high unemployment rate.
To provide highly skilled workforce for the Nigerian economy, we need to focus on building on the food soldiers.
This is definitely a way to go for most countries who would like to develop and become an important contribution to not only to Nigeria but also to the world.
The Nigerian Society of Engineers will continue to collaborate with Korea. We do realize the fact that there is no doubt that skills development is the way to go.
With this inauguration, Koren is expected to leverage technology and digital platforms to provide accessible and flexible training opportunities for artisans to herald positive impacts on the industry and the economy. In Abuja, Tokwe Alabi, NTA News.
Sultan of Sokoto and President General Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, Mohammed Sa'ad Abubakar, has declared this Wednesday, 4th September 2024, as the first day of Rabiul Awwal 1446 after Hijrah. This is contained in a statement signed by the Chairman, Advisory Committee on Religious Affairs of the Sultanate Council, Sokoto, Professor Sambo Wali Junaidu. And just before we go, let's have a quick look at Thursday's weather prospect. That concludes the news. Thank you for your time. I'm Ruth Aguwele. My sign language interpreter is John Bamidele. Bye.